Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Q4 and FY21 earnings conference call of MTAR Technologies Limited. This conference call may contain forward-looking statements about the company, which are based on the beliefs, opinions, and expectations of the company as on date of this call. These statements are not the guarantees of future performance and involve risks and uncertainties that are difficult to predict. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference call, please signal an operator by pressing star and 0 on your touchtone phone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I now hand the conference over to Mr. Srinivas Reddy, Managing Director of MTAR Technologies Limited. Thank you, and over to you, sir. Mr. Srinivas, you can go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you, and good evening to everyone. First and foremost, I hope you all are keeping safe and healthy during these unprecedented times. Today on the call, I'm joined by Mr. Sudipta Bhattacharya, Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Devesh Trivedi, our Chief Operating Officer, and Mrs. Srilekha, who is Manager of Strategy and Operations, and Oriental Capital, our investor relation partner. We have uploaded our updated investor deck and results highlights on the stock exchanges and company website. I hope everybody had an opportunity to go through the same. I would start by thanking all the shareholders for supporting us during IPO and showing trust in our company. Since this is our maiden earnings call, I would like to share a brief overview about MTAR, its journey so far, and growth strategies going forward. This will be followed by the operational and financial performance for the Q4 and FY21. Post that, we'll open the floor for Q&A. As you know by now, MTAR is a leading engineering solutions company engaged in the manufacture of mission-critical precision components with close tolerances of 5 to 10 microns, and in critical assemblies to serve projects of high national importance through our precision machining, assembly, testing, quality control, and specialized fabrication competencies. Some of these have been indigenously developed and manufactured by MTAR over a period of time. The engineering capability of our company evolved over decades and has enabled us to consistently offer quality complex precision manufactured components and assemblies with stipulated timelines, allowing us to forge a robust relationship with our customers. We primarily serve customers in the clean energy, nuclear, and space and defense sectors. Since inception, we have strived to grow continually, contributing to the Indian civilian nuclear power program, Indian space program, Indian defense and aerospace sector, as well as to the global clean energy sector and the global defense and aerospace sector. Over the years, we have also developed import substitutes such as ball screws and water lubricated bearings that are special and used in the above-mentioned sectors. We operate in sectors which have very high entry barriers because of qualification processes which are involved here, and as there is no scope of any kind of faults in terms of manufacturing, which is completely unacceptable. We believe that based on our past experience in the supply of our products, ability to meet specific technical requirements of our customers, reputation of quality and safety features in our products, has not only strengthened our position in the market, but also has enabled us to establish and maintain relationships with our customers. I would also like to highlight our association in supply of very complicated products to some of the prestigious projects like the PSLV T-25, which launched the Mars orbiter mission spacecraft. We are integral part of the GSLV Mark III engine for the Chandrayaan-2 mission, and we have also undertook complex assemblies such as base shroud assemblies for the Agni missiles. Now I would request the Chief Operating Officer, Devesh Trivedi, to take you through the next part of the presentation.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. We currently operate through 7 manufacturing facilities, including a 100% export-oriented unit, all located in Hyderabad. we have all the advanced equipment and the machinery, required to undertake precision machining and assembly. This makes us a leading one-stop solutions company for all our customers across various sectors for the precision engineering requirements. MTAR has recently, received certification for ISO 14001, 45001, and for its 100% export-oriented unit, and for Unit 2 in Telangana. So, this is basically a very, good step in the process of continuous improvement at MTAR in the pursuit of quality and, being responsible towards the society. At MTAR, we also continuously strive to achieve excellence in our processes, in our capabilities, products, etc. So, in this respect, our special emphasis on R&D has allowed us to evolve our own process technologies and thereby enabling us to achieve design specifications with the accuracy irrespective of the size of the products. We have also recently established an engineering cell which works on cycle time reductions to enhance cost-effective manufacturing solutions in niche engineering segments. Given that our operations are specialized, our manufacturing facilities also employ extensive, stringent quality control mechanisms at various stages, including that of materials issue and manufacturing processes. This ensures that our finished product conforms to the quality and the traceability requirements which are very specific for our customers. Owing to the critical end applications of our products, we believe that it becomes very difficult for new players to get qualified for the projects that we undertake, thus creating a high entry barrier and a good customer dependency on MTAR. We operate in three broad sectors: clean energy, nuclear power, and space and defense. Now I'll give some more information about these segments. In clean energy, we are working with Bloom Energy, with which we have been associated since the past 9 years. We are the sole supplier to Bloom Energy from India as of FY21. Bloom is one of the largest and the fastest growing players globally in the stationary hydrogen fuel cell segment and has 70% of its revenues coming from these product segments, the balance from services. We are also supplying multiple components to Bloom Energy and are in the development stage to expand our product portfolio with them and penetrate deeper into the clean energy segment. The revenue contribution from the clean energy was rupees 122.9 crores in FY21 as compared to rupees 137.5 crores in financial year 2020. In nuclear energy, we have been serving customers for more than 35 years now and have established relationships with NPCIL, Nuclear Power Corporation of India Limited, having served them for over 16 years. The revenue contribution from the nuclear segment was rupees 62.4 crores in FY21 as compared to rupees 30.5 crores in financial year 2020. This is a growth of 105% and a very welcome increase. We are also a key supplier of mission critical assemblies and components to customers within the space and the defense sectors for their programs of national importance. We have decades of relationship with customers like ISRO and DRDO. ISRO is Indian Space Research Organization, DRDO is Defense Research and Development Organization. We also supply to Israel-based defense technology companies as part of our international client base. The revenue from the defense and space sector stood at rupees 53.4 crores in financial year 21 as compared to rupees 39.3 crores in financial year 20. This is a growth of 36%. Let me now speak on the future strategies and the roadmap for our company. We are working to strengthen our existing product portfolio and diversify into products with high growth and profitability prospects across various sectors. We are indigenizing the roller screws and have made significant progress in the development activity. we have also initiated the development of electromechanical actuators, which find applications in the space and the defense sectors. Further, we are building an exclusive specialized fabrication facility at Adipatla to take up high-end fabrication jobs, which shall enhance our existing capabilities. This facility should be functional by second half of FY22. At the same facility, we are also diversifying into manufacturing of high-precision sheet metal products, and this facility should also be operational in the second half of financial year 22. Initially, we will be catering to ISRO and Bloom Energy. However, the new capabilities are expected to add more customers across sectors to MTR. Going forward, we will be capitalizing on upward trend of the nuclear sector in India, increasing indigenization and policy initiatives in the defense sector are expected to help us achieve our aims. We also believe in the Make in India initiative, and being vocal for local will boost the manufacturing capabilities in India, and the dependency on the imports will be reduced as a result. In March, we had received an export order of rupees 93 crores. This strengthened our order book to become rupees 416.9 crores as of 31st of March 2021, giving us a healthy visibility on revenue for the future. We have also added 3 new MNC customers during FY21, namely Andritz, Kongsberg, and Tata Advanced Systems. We continually strive on increasing our wallet share from existing customers and add new customers from India and across the globe by developing customized solutions and newer products as per the demands of the customers. With this, I hand over the call to Sudipto to take you through the operational and the financial highlights for Q4 and financial year of 2021.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our earnings call. This is the first earnings call after listing, and I will take you through the financial and operational highlights. Losing about 2 months in the beginning of the financial year and also having uncertainties at the end of the financial year due to COVID disruptions, we have actually grown our revenue around 15.3% growth revenue over last year. If you consider revenue sales, about 16.7%. Quarter by quarter, quarter 4 grew 12.3% year on year, basis to 69 crores also. We have given you certain customer sector wise. Kindly note these are not accounting segments.
We are not able to hear you clearly. In between, the audio is getting muffled.
Hello?
Yes.
Am I clear?
Yes, sir. You can go ahead now.
Yeah. The revenue breakup of customer sector wise for FY21 is space and defense improved a little bit at about 21% of the total revenue. Nuclear improved considerably to almost double at 26% of total revenue, and clean energy fell to 50% as against 64% in FY20. So we have the domestic versus exports balance of 50-50 this year. These customer sectors are not accounting sectors for us, which may kindly be noted. Devesh has spoken about the order books, which is about 1.7 times the revenue of FY21. As far as EBITDA is concerned, we have grown considerably. Our quarter 4 EBITDA stood at 30 crores, which is up about 107%. Our full year EBITDA stood at 83 crores, which is about 43% improvement over the last year. 2%. It's possible because of had free issue, a large free issue material content. Able to bring.
Sudipto, you're breaking up. Can you please speak closer to the speaker over there?
You're saying something?
You're breaking up. We're not able to hear clearly. So can you come closer to the speaker and speak so that everyone can listen to you?
Okay. Better now?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. See, our cost as a percentage of revenue has also improved, both the employee cost and the other expenses, which is an indicative of that the organization is taking advantage of the operating leverages which exist even today. We have improved PAT also, which stood at about the quarter 4 financial year 21 stood at 18 crores, growing at 103%. The profit after tax for FY21 grew at 47% and stood at 46 crores. And the EBITDA margin grew by about 400 basis points. On the balance sheet side, the IPO proceeds, we have reduced our working capital debt, which was one of the objects. Our debt to equity ratio on 31st March stood at 0.03%, 0.03 actually. There has been an increase in our working capital cycle to 198 days due to COVID-related disruptions, both increase in inventory due to our not being able to dispatch large orders at the year end, and also due to supply chain disruptions which have affected our credit terms, and therefore the net trade creditors have decreased. The board has recommended a final dividend of 3 rupees per share as on for the financial year March 31, 2021, subject to approval of the members in the AGM. To conclude, we would like to highlight that the increasing revenue and sustainable margins due to operating leverage playout will significantly improve our return ratios and free cash going forward. I look forward to questions on this. I now pass it on to Srinivas for his closing remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Devesh and Sudipto. And now we can take questions from anyone.
We will begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on the touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. The first question is from the line of Renu Baid from IIFL. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Yeah, I have 3 questions. First is, if you look at the clean energy portfolio for us, last year we had a bit of decline because of the COVID challenges. If you can help us elaborate, what is the volume growth last year and how are we expecting the volumes to stack up in FY22-23 from this portfolio, especially on the new product lines for Bloom? Some insights on that side, and how is the overall growth outlook in this segment?
The clean energy, if you look at last year, we were actually manufacturing the SOFC unit, and we had a disruption in the month of April as everybody was under complete lockdown. And we were still able to manage revenues of 122 crores. But in the current year, we have much higher numbers in terms of the SOFC units by itself, where we are looking at a forward-looking number of almost like 170 to 176 crores in clean energy itself. And then we also have developed the hydrogen units, which I have mentioned earlier in terms of the prototypes, which have been installed in South Korea already for a customer. And then now we are manufacturing the second batch of hydrogen units, which will again be installed for one of the customers. And then we go on to the volume production by end of this year. So we're expecting a large traction coming from the hydrogen units by end of this year, Q4 of FY22. And the third product what we have developed is the electrolyzer, that is for manufacturing of green hydrogen. We have already manufactured the prototypes and shipped them out. So we're expecting further prototypes to be manufactured in Q2. And then we move on to the batch production. And subsequently, we are also expecting a good ramp up in the third product as well. So overall, if you look at it, we are actually having a very positive outlook on the clean energy portfolio in terms of the volumes that we can generate, not necessarily in one product, but 3 different products over the next couple of years. That's what we're looking at right now.
Sure. So secondly, if we see on the order pipeline side, order inflows have not been as strong, fairly flattish. So what is the outlook in this segment? Have you seen orders from government-owned sectors like nuclear space getting delayed due to COVID? If you can share some insights in terms of the order pipeline status for FY22 and the outlook.
Yeah, let me take you through the segment-wise. If you look at nuclear to start with, obviously, you all know in Q1, most of the offices are under literal shutdown because of COVID, second wave of COVID. But we have substantial orders which we'll be expecting from the nuclear segment. One is that we are already quoted for a number of tenders for the nuclear segment already. And some of them we have become L1. Is not officially declared, but that's what we know. But most of the orders are going to kick in somewhere in Q2 and Q3. But the most important thing that we all should understand is that the fleet reactors which NPCIL has announced, we have actually started receiving the tenders. We have received a couple of tenders already in the last 1 month, basically in Kalandria and Gujarat Column. All these are the projects that MTR undertakes. So we are expecting a lot more tenders to be released over the next 2-3 months. So we're expecting at least about 300 to 400 crores of orders coming in from the nuclear segment itself in FY22 or even more. And some can spill over to FY23. But the important thing is our FY22 numbers do not get affected by any of these orders. So we'll be well geared up for this for FY23 as we have planned in our, as it's there in our business plan. So when you look at space, we already have confirmed orders from ISRO for additional Vikas engines. The modules, we all remember, we have developed the modules over the last 4-5 years. And we have been qualified for that, and we're going to receive a fresh set of orders for that in Q2. So we are expecting at least 80 to 100 crores or more of orders from space itself. And the third area, what we're looking at in defense, we have quoted for a number of projects. We are actively engaged in various areas with defense organizations, and we have started receiving orders from them as well. So overall, if you look at it, our order book would be very strong by end of the year. In FY22, we're looking at least about 700 crores of orders, closing order book as a conservative number as of now. If things are more favorable, then we would get a lot more orders, but that would really not affect the business plan of the company for FY23. Clean energy, as we all know, we receive orders every 6 months, so we're expecting a huge order again coming back from Bloom Energy and others by in Q2 itself. So that's going to be a major order which is going to come in because of the enhanced requirements for the future. We have the forecast given already, and we're planning the supply chain and various other issues to gear up for that order. We already have orders until December end, and we'll be receiving the orders till next September by end of Q2. That's where we stand in order book. So we stand a very good chance in building our order book over the next couple of quarters.
Sure. And if one last question I can ask on working capital. So Dipto did mention that there was increase in inventory because delay in dispatches. So if you can highlight which segments were these? Were these largely government-oriented nuclear and space dispatches? And where are we in terms of status of these projects which were delayed from last year? Thank you.
Yeah. Let me answer this slightly differently. In this case, see, when we talk about working capital of 198 days, the first thing, I keep saying this to everyone. Basically, we are in a pandemic situation, but that doesn't mean that we have to think out of the box and do certain things to ensure that we achieve our business targets. So what we have actually planned very well is we signed various contracts with our suppliers much ahead of time to actually ensure that we are protected from any of these inflationary costs, the price increases on the raw material, which all of you have seen over the last 3-4 months or 6 months. So we have been well protected in that. And we also planned, in order not to affect our production or operations, we have actually increased our inventory levels and bought these raw materials much ahead of time. And indirectly, the company is benefiting in a big way that way. So that's one of the reasons. And secondly, some of the dispatches because of COVID were not cleared in the case of nuclear and space sectors. And that has happened because none of the officers were here required stage inspections. You have final inspections because there is no, we cannot have any kind of quality issues, especially in these high niche areas. So those things were held back in the company. And now slowly, once hopefully by June, second week or third week, once things stabilize, then we're expecting we can easily probably catch up on all these dispatches and take care of it, so that our inventory levels also on the finished goods side will come down drastically. And the third area which we are looking at is the receivables also. We have received substantial receivables, more than 50% in the first 2 months of the current year. But such receivables were delayed earlier because of, again, certain COVID issues related to COVID issues. So all these factors and the suppliers, for example, when we are trying to get the material much faster, we not only negotiated a better price, that's why you can see good margins in the company, which we procured at a good price, but and the payments were done right away. So we normally didn't look at the credit to be taken by the suppliers, but look at the price point of it. Because of the COVID situation, which we took a very, it's a management, we all together took that decision to move in that direction. So what I would like to say is, you might be seeing a higher number of working capital days at the end of March, but during the course of the year, we would see it dropping down back to about 140 days. Very comfortably over quarter-on-quarter basis, we'll have substantial improvement going forward in that area.
Sure. Thanks much, and all the best. I'll get back with more questions later. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. A reminder to the participants, anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and one now. The next question is from the line of Nitin Arora from Axis Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Good evening. My first question is related with the Bloom Energy. So you stated your revenue targets for next year, as you said, 170 crore plus. So can you elaborate in terms of volumes, what kind of a volumes you have done for FY21 and what kind of a volumes you are expecting in 22? That's the first part of the question. And in terms of hydrogen, now this is the third year where the Bloom has again guided their global analysts for the next year. This is the third time they have delayed the hydrogen launch. I just want to understand from you, when you say the dispatches has already gone, or the prototypes, has been, it has been gone now. Just wanted to understand from you, how's the success of that particular, prototype, how's their reaction and how's their, feedback, if you can throw some light. And if this hydrogen gets delayed further, is that a bigger number, what you're assuming in a 170 crore this year? That's my first question. Then I have follow-up.
Yeah, sure, Nitin. See, basically, what I have mentioned this very clearly, the actual production is on the SOFC units, what we are looking at.
Right.
Hydrogen units is basically a bonus to the company, but let me explain that to you, what we are doing in the hydrogen units. See, hydrogen units, we have done the first prototypes. They have installed it in South Korea, and it got very good acceptance.
Okay.
But in engineering, as we all know, we try to improvise on things on a step-by-step basis. So the second batch of hydrogen units are again being manufactured right now, and with certain improvements. So we're looking at higher efficiency, and that's going to happen in the second batch. And once that is started and installed, and then we move on to the third batch, which I clearly mentioned even in the past. And once the third batch is also done, then we are pretty much sure to ramp it up by end of the year. So we are not looking at the hydrogen. What we need to look at is we're not looking at hydrogen as a number per se, but we're looking at what developmental activity we are doing for the future. So we are very comfortable in the numbers, what we're looking at for SOFC right now. But hydrogen is the one with the second vertical, which will definitely ramp up in F23 in a big way, because we are doing that developmental activity. We have proved the product already, but now we are only looking at higher efficiencies. And that's going to happen in the next 2 quarters. And once that happens, then we will look at definitely a good amount of ramp up on the hydrogen units as well as the SOFC units. And the second thing which I want to mention to you is in the SOFC unit, in the current year, we are also going for the advanced version of the SOFC unit, which is called a Silaku, compared to the Yuma units. And those we are doing about 40 numbers this year. And then in the next financial year, we'll be doing almost like 800 numbers of Silaku is what our expectations are, along with the Yuma boxes, and then it gets phased down. So here you get about 1/3 of extra power generation from the new units that what we are developing right now. So a lot of developmental activities in technology is going on currently, and that's where we stand right now. And eventually that will give you the growth much bigger way in the future. I hope I answered your question, Nikhil.
Got it. And so if you can share the volume numbers of SOFC this year versus last year? The volume units?
It's about, I think last year, I don't have the exact number, but I think it's around 1,700 or something like that. But this year it's about 1,500 or something. I'm not exactly sure about the number, but we are looking at about 2,200 to 2,400 numbers this year.
My second question is related to the gross margin. It's abnormally high versus what we have done in last 2-3 years. Can you throw some light on it? What led to such high gross margins?
See, the first thing is on the, as I mentioned earlier, as a team, we planned much advanced procurement of raw material at very good cost prices. We planned for the entire year, even in FY 22 or 21, we have done that. Secondly, we have done a lot of value addition in the space sector, where there's a free issue material. As you must have heard, Devesh, that we have improved our space by about 35 to 40% in sales. So that's another area. And the kind of revenues we have generated, innovations we have done in the clean energy sector, where earlier we were importing a lot of these products. Some of the assemblies we are importing, like for example, fins and bellows, what we are now manufacturing, going to manufacture now, and forklift bases we are importing earlier. Most of this we have actually started manufacturing in-house. We have developed it in-house again. So the various developmental activities what we have undertaken, see, I don't really believe that we should say that, okay, our manpower cost is less. We definitely don't believe that as a management team. We believe in improving the margins by innovation. That's what we have done in the energy sector and also in space and nuclear, where we have reduced huge cycle time reductions we have achieved in various areas, and also in innovating a lot of products indigenously instead of importing from abroad. That's exactly what we have done and how the margins have improved. And we continue to do that even in the future, and we are doing that even now.
Sir, I can understand some indigenization would have happened. So if that would have happened, we would have, taken it on a recurring basis. But hasn't the skewness of mix amongst the revenue, which is also leading to that? Because there is an increase in stock, so which is also benefiting you. I understand the procurement of inventory, what you have done. So that's about 10 crore extra versus a Q3. So is there a skewness of a mix of revenue also which is driving that? Because all other factors which you are saying, I'm assuming inventory will normalize, will go away. Rest of the factors then should not lead to such high gross margins, right? So
yeah, that's right. Yeah, absolutely, that's right what you're saying. But there is a lot of, within the given period itself, the kind of, that's what I'm coming back to. If you look at, to answer to your question is, if you're able to reduce our cycle times and try to do more value addition within a given period of time, that's what we're able to do right now and execute the projects also much faster. So that's something which we have done very aggressively in the last 1-2 quarters, and we continue to do so. But overall, if you look at the margins, we stabilize at a certain level, can't go way beyond certain level. But that would also help us to generate more revenues, which would give us better margins. So it's all interrelated.
Thank you. We would request the current participant to please come back in the question queue for any follow-up questions, as we have several participants waiting for their turn. The next question is from the line of Alok Ranjan from L&T Investment Management. Please go ahead.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for taking my question. Sir, my question is related to the clean energy segment, where we are supplying solid oxide fuel cell hot boxes. Is it Bloom Energy the only company we are supplying? That means, is there any exclusive agreement that we have with Bloom Energy? Or we are also in partnership with the other companies which are in the similar products?
So let me explain this. The relationship, to first answer this question, I have to explain in a slightly different way. The relationship between MTAR and Bloom Energy is not a buyer and seller relationship. It's a joint, it's a relationship of developmental activity, developing the technology together over the last 9 years. So yes, we are working with Bloom Energy as of now, but we have the core capabilities to actually address this technology with any other company. For example, we can also work with Plug Power, Ballard Systems, fuel cell company, or that all these are from US and also from Europe. But what we are trying to do with Bloom Energy is we have achieved huge levels of efficiencies and advanced technologies with Bloom Energy, working jointly with them. And this, obviously, we are looking at a lot more customers. As Devesh has mentioned earlier, new customers are joining us with all the certifications which we have received of late. And we'll definitely we are looking at other customers as well. And our main target is to add a lot more customers during the current year and as well as next year in a similar segment. But the technologies are different. We have the capabilities to do it now, the way we have developed the whole thing, but each company has its own technologies which we can adapt very quickly and develop it. So that's the capabilities which we have right now, and that's what we're looking forward for.
Got it, sir. So just wanted to understand the hot box opportunity in a better way. For a given hot box product, what is the value addition that is done by MTAR? So out of 100 rupees a product, what kind of value addition is done by MTAR? If you can just highlight that.
See, the value addition part of it is about almost close to about 52 to 53% as of now.
Okay. And so out of that, what kind of product we might be procuring directly from outside, which is not still indigenized?
No. Basically, what we manufacture, we import the raw material and certain raw materials from abroad, and the landed cost of raw materials, look at it, and the rest is the value add of how we manufacture the boxes. So that's what we do. So it's a complete unit is what we manufacture.
Got it. So out of 100 rupees of a product, 50 to 53 rupees of value addition is done by MTAR, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Sir, another question is related to the replacement of these hot boxes. So out of the total revenue that we generate, how much of the revenue comes from the replacement, and what is the life cycle of this hot box product?
See, the life cycle of the hot box product, I'm not 100% sure, but it ranges from 5 to 7 years. They average about 5 years, and then there's certain parts in the hot boxes is what we replace, which we call it as field replacement units, which we supply to Bloom, which we call it as screws. So that depends on how many of those hot boxes need certain replacements in those units, and that's what we supply to them.
So we are already supplying those products as a part of the replacement to the Bloom Energy.
Absolutely. We have done that in the last year also, yes.
Got it. So my last question is related to understand the precision engineering capability that we have. Given the domestic revenue that we generate, what percentage of the revenue comes from products where we are the only sole supplier or having the capability in India?
See, that's about, we are doing ball screws and water lubricant bearings as a product right now, which we are the only people who are doing it for the nuclear, space and defense segments. And that's roughly around, it ranges around 18 to 20 crores right now. But what we are looking at is to even improve that as the reactors go up and the requirements of space go up, that number keeps going higher. But we're introducing a couple of more products which Devesh has explained earlier. One is the roller screws, which we are in advanced stage, which is a 100% import substitute where all the organizations right now are importing it. And we've already manufactured the prototypes and we're waiting for final approvals, which will happen in second quarter of this year. That's a major product which is very critical and we are very excited about it. And the fourth one is the electromechanical actuators which are used in the missiles program, which we have started developing it right now. The requirement of EMAs itself is close to about 400 crores over the next 3 to 4 years. So these are all being imported at this point of time. So that's where our R&D is working on it, and we'll be able to establish the EMAs, electromechanical actuators used in missiles and in the space programs also, wherever they need it, probably by fourth quarter of this year.
Got it. Thank you, sir. That's all from my side.
Thank you, Alok.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Bhavin Vithlani from SBI Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity. The question is on the nuclear segment. So L&T Hydrocarbon did report a very large order flow of 1,200 crores for the fleet reactors. Where are we in terms of the order flow? What is the kind of opportunity that we're looking from the fleet? Secondly, we had also highlighted about opportunity in terms of spent fuel for the Kudankulam reactor. So an update on that will be useful.
Yeah, sure. See, basically what order L&T has received is, I think with BHE we're talking about is the headers, which most of will not, MTR is not involved in that because there's not much of technical or value-adding headers because most of the value add is done in Italy, in Europe, and then it's imported to India, and the rest of the finishing is done in India. That's what happens. But the important thing for us to know is, the good news is that a lot of people are skeptical about when will these orders come in. So I would like to now really confirm to each and every one of you that the tenders have started coming in. We have already received a couple of tenders for the first phase of the fleet reactors, the 4 reactors. We have received 8 calendar year for 8 reactors. We have received 1 tender. We have received tender for the bridge and column. Bridge and column is the bread and butter equipment which MTR manufactures for NPCL. So already we have received a couple of tenders, and what we have come to know is that we are going to continuously receive these tenders over the next 2-3 months. There has been little bit delay of, I would say, for a couple of months. We should have got it a couple of months earlier itself, but we already got a couple of tenders. Now we'll get the rest of the tenders during the course of this year. And we are very confident of getting very good orders for these fleet reactors, which is happening for the first time in volume basis. And that's where we stand right now. And when it comes to spent fuel, we are quoted for 3 tenders, out of which we are awaiting for NPCL to finalize the tenders. So to be very clear on this part, we have joined hands with Rosatom to do, for the first time, a spent fuel technology is being done in India indigenously, primarily because of the Prime Minister's office taking an initiative based on Atmanirbhar that Indian company has to get involved before it was directly being done by the Russians. So Rosatom, one of the biggest company in Russia, they selected NTR. We joined hands together and we have submitted our tenders to the department. We have bid for the tenders. So they are right now in technical evaluation, but to be very clear, there hardly anyone there to really get qualified. They are qualified in every aspect of it. So we're hoping that these tenders, it's right now going into the committee level, and then probably in Q2 we'll be able to see the orders flowing in from the spent fuel as well.
This is helpful. The last question from my side, we have been seeing significant inflation on the commodities, metal commodities. How will this impact entire over the next financial year, and what is the way to mitigate the impact on the input cost inflation?
Actually, I've answered this question, but I'll still explain this very clearly. See, we have signed, so looking at the COVID situation, the management team got together and we took a decision. There's another reason about a slightly higher working capital days also, but we have to look at the major advantages, what we're getting out of it, is that we have signed contracts with the raw material suppliers way ahead of time for the entire year, including FY22. So we are able to get the entire raw material without being affected with the increase. And secondly, we have also started getting to ensure that we are not affected by the supply chain issues. For FY22, we started getting in this raw material much ahead of time, which was not required in the earlier case, but because of COVID, we took a decision which we felt that it should not affect our operations in the future. So we have done that. So we are definitely not affected as far as the increase in the prices are concerned on all our projects, in fact. And the third thing is that we also do have a price escalation clause in our contracts of up to 20% linked to labor indices and raw material indices. So we're also protected there. So that way, we are pretty confident that we will not be affected by the increase in costs of raw material. And we have planned this in a way that even though our number of days have gone up, but actually that given good business benefit to the company if you look at it in a realistic terms.
Sure. Just a follow-up on this. What proportion of our revenues is where we will have free issue from the customers?
It's basically around, only in the case of space, we have free issue material. That's a question about the free issue material?
Sure. Yeah. Okay. That answers the question. Yeah. Thank you so much for taking the question.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Rita Tahilramani from Invesco. Please go ahead.
Hello, sir. Two questions from my side. First, we currently contribute to almost 60% of the Bloom volume, if I'm right. This was from the year 21, right?
Absolutely right.
Yeah. So, but despite that, the volumes have declined from 1,700 to 1,500. Is it so?
No, we are looking at the 60% of the volume for the current year, not the last year. Last year, they have released the order for 60% starting from January. See, the US works from January to December, calendar year. We work the financial year, right? So they have given a 60% volume from January to December.
So I'm just trying to understand, is there a reduction in the volume quantum compared to the last year, in the absolute volume quantum? Because as I hear you speak to me that the total volume
I'll explain that. So last year what has happened, there was actually no reduction. What has happened is, if you remember, from March 23rd to May 5th, we are completely under lockdown. So we are not able to actually produce anything during that period. So we lost out on that quantity during that period. And for business continuity, where Bloom will have a line shut down, so they took from the supplier from Taiwan at that point of time. So that's why we see a slight reduction in that number. Technically, we had a lot more orders, but we lost out for that 1.5 months.
Okay. Perfect. So on absolute basis, you're still up because of the 60% share.
Yeah.
Secondly, in terms of the margins, with incremental orders coming in from nuclear, and as I hear you right, where do you think your margins could stabilize at? What could be the sustainable margins for you in that thought process, or keeping in mind also, the commodity price rise to take in some kind of, hedge against?
See, the sustainable margins, in a realistic way to look at on a long-term basis would be around EBITDA margins would hover around 35% for sure, because the kind of area and niche area we are in. But there might be a few percentage points more than that based as and when the revenues grow and our various developmental activities, what we are doing within the company itself on the shop floor. So there will be a few percentage points more than what we can normally average at this point of time, but that's what our aim is. But definitely we will sustain around 35% of EBITDA levels even going forward.
Okay. And if I could just squeeze in one more. In terms of this hot boxes we last recently, you mentioned that, there are incremental lines coming in from Europe on the hot boxes side. Have we been able to close on any one of them, or do you see any visibility in the near future?
We are definitely seeing that. The issue is there is a process in engineering that we all know that the customers also do have to visit the facilities. We are in discussions with various customers, even in US also. So we are just awaiting for these COVID restrictions to die down, and so that we can take it forward in a more aggressive manner. The most important thing is now the customers or various potential customers do know our capabilities right now. And we are hoping that we will be able to add more and more customers during this year and even next year. So we are also not in a rush. We have enough volumes to handle for Bloom, but at the same time, we have the new facilities coming up in Adibatra and the airport, a couple of new facilities which will get commissioned this year. So that will also give us a lot of impetus in capturing a lot more customers in new capabilities as well. So it's a matter of time that the customers will start coming in to MTAR to execute all their requirements.
Both the sheet metal and special fabrication facility, they would get commissioned by year end?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you and good luck.
Yeah.
Thank you. We would request the participants to please limit your questions to 2 per participant. The next question is from the line of Deepak Nanodia from Birla Sun Life Insurance. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hello, sir.
Hello.
Hello. Yeah, actually, I had this question on margin only. Somebody has asked this question, but again, you said 35% sustainable margin, sir, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, that's I'm talking about the EBITDA level, EBITDA margins of 35%.
So when you said long-term margin means you are targeting this to achieve this level in the next 2-3 years, or you are going to deliver this kind of margin in FY22 itself?
Well, we have already delivered close to 34 and odd during the FY21. So with the kind of growth plan what we have, so we would sustain at that level is what I've mentioned, so around 35%. So that should not be an issue at all.
Why am I asking, sir? Because in this 34% margin, your fourth quarter margin of 44% looks abnormally high in this particular quarter. So that's why this 43% is quite normal, or anything something non-recurring in nature is there in this 43% margin?
No, it is basically we have done a lot of value addition work in the fourth quarter. We are moving forward with such similar progress in developmental activity in the first quarter of this year as well. So when I say about certain margins, I would always like to be very clear and conservative that this is the average margins that we will do. But obviously, we have taken up very aggressive steps in various areas to improve upon our margins. And let's see how it goes. And overall, what I'm trying to say is a sustainable margin of 35% EBITDA levels, that should be very good for the company in the long run. So we might do more, but I don't want to say anything right now on that.
And sir, about this your order inflow and revenue. Earlier, I think in my prior meeting, you had mentioned 1,000 crores of kind of order book for FY22 end. And now you are saying somewhere around 700 crores order book by FY22 end. So is there anything specific which had got delayed, or you are being conservative, or because of the COVID or something, or it's not coming up? Can you throw a little light on that?
No, the main issue is it's not about the number. Obviously, we have that potential, very clear potential that we will be there for sure. But the only thing is, it might probably slip over to the next quarter, which probably can happen because the first quarter we have lost because of COVID. And also, we might look at third wave, or all these offices have to work continuously. So on what I mentioned was, it's not really going to affect our growth target per se, because whether you get 700 or 1,000, but instead of getting 700 by end of March, you might go into another 200 crores or whatever, 300 in the first quarter. There can be certain spillover because of delays due to COVID. But that's not going to affect our growth plan absolutely. So,
Thank you. We would request the current participant to please come back in the question queue. The next question is from the line of Jonas Bhutta from Phillip Capital. Please go ahead.
Good evening, gentlemen. Two quick questions. So, just wanted to understand this math. So, when Bloom Energy says that it has an order backlog or order book of 200 megawatt of equivalent hot boxes, how much does it translate in terms of volume? So, if that, for MTAR or the Taiwanese supply, so how many hot boxes will actually get into a 200 megawatt order book of Bloom? A. B, based on your current manufacturing capacity, is this executable over a 1 or a 2 year period, sir? That's my first question.
So I'll give you a first question, I'll answer, then we'll go to the second. I'll give you a very simple math. 4 hot boxes will generate about 1 kilowatt of power. That's what I know for sure. So basically, it all depends on their installations as well. See, they can have an order book of X quantity, but it also depends on installations that they can do. So we are catering to 60% of their requirement right now, and we are trying to even look at even much higher percentage over the next year. So close to about 70% also, based on what we are trying to do in improving our efficiencies in terms of cost reductions, in terms of manufacturing. So it all depends on the number of installations that Bloom can do, but they give a forecast for 1 year, and that's how everything is fixed, and that's how we move forward.
Okay, so this Kilaco range of products that they have, which is 100 kWe, does that alter the number of hot boxes required, or that remains constant, as in the number of hot boxes that go into fitting a Kilaco product?
Yeah, Kilaco is only a technology change where it can generate about 30 to 33% of higher power. That's what it is. And that's a new model which we are working on. So this year we are supplying about 40 numbers by December end, the first prototypes of 40 numbers. And then we are looking at certain quantities of 25 to 30% next year. And then slowly Kilaco will get replaced by Yuma. So that's the plan.
Okay. And my last question, sir, was on the ASP. So if you see Bloom Energy for the last 4 consecutive quarters has shown that their selling price per megawatt is going down by 15% YOY every quarter. So effectively by 15-20% every year. How does this reflect on our negotiations that we have? Because we have it once in 6 months. So how do you sort of figure out the kind of price decrease they are asking you versus, you trying to maintain that 35% margin band that you want? If you can touch upon that, and that's my final question. Thank you, sir.
Sure. So basically, to start with, it is not once in 6 months the prices are negotiated. We negotiate a contract for 1 year, every year. That's what we do. And based on the quarterly targets, what they have, the dispatches for each quarter, that's what happens. And secondly, as far as the price is concerned, they're able to do a lot of design changes within the box. Plus, we are also able to indigenize a lot of the requirements what they're manufacturing for the balloon box. But it's not necessarily a hot box. A hot box consists of a lot of electronics, sheet metal work. It's a combination of everything. The whole server is a combination of, plus the fuel cells also. The fuel cell stacks are manufactured in US itself, so there must be a lot of cost reduction there in US itself. But we will not get impacted. We always maintain one thing. We maintain with Bloom a relationship which helps them and helps Entire to build volumes. It's that's where we do things. And we have done, we're able to maintain such margins because of the various indigenization methods that we use instead of importing. And that's what we have been doing. We continue to do that. For example, now we are manufacturing bellows. We're almost there in manufacturing bellows we use for the Yuma box, which we are importing from US. Now from Q2 onwards or Q3 we'll be doing in-house. So a lot of such innovations are being done to ensure that we are right up there in terms of our margins, is what I've explained even earlier.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Vivek Sharma from BGIM Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for taking my question. My first question is about the current situation of lockdown, and you mentioned that inspections and billings were delayed. So what is the situation now? Have they been resumed, or we see still seeing some lag in those aspects?
Yeah, sure. There has been a situation of lockdown even in Hyderabad, but we are working. We are coming to the office, factory, shop floor. We are working continuously. The lockdown, as far as the customers are concerned, like nuclear and space, there have been certain restrictions, as we all know. They're not able to go to their offices. There's a 15% attendance on restrictions by Government of India. But the important thing is that we have not stopped our activity. The only thing is certain inspections can get delayed, but we'll catch up on that. So that should not be an issue at all. So we are able to manufacture, but if inspections are getting delayed a little bit, we'll catch up on that once the June month we are stable in terms of the second wave and we are through with it. Probably things will catch up very quickly, and I don't see any loss of time in terms of manufacturing. So that's the most important thing which I look at personally. So the rest of the things can be easily taken care of once things stabilize.
Got it. And my second question is regarding to the nuclear sector. What is the status of tenders and orders for the reactors, and how many are we planning to build, and what is the capacity that we have that we can supply in a year, assuming we win more than what we have?
See, as we have always said, we have all capacities in place to handle 4 reactors at one time. No one else has that kind of capacity. So we have built it much ahead of time. The good news is the tenders I mentioned earlier, the tenders have already started coming in for the 3 reactors. We have received a couple of tenders as of today, which we are quoting next month for these tenders, and we are expecting a lot more tenders to flow in. There is slight delay of 1.5 months because of the April and May COVID situation, but I think what I'm expecting is a lot more tenders will flow in the month of July or August. And all these tenders will get converted into POs, as I mentioned before. And that's the very good news, and we are also very excited about that.
As of now, NPCIL plans to tender out 10 reactors, 7,000 megawatt. Am I right?
You're absolutely right. 700 megawatts. Actually, 14. What they're doing is they've taken up 10 right now, out of which they're giving 4 plus 4 plus 2. They're doing it in 3 different periods.
Okay. And is there a domestic manufacturing clause there itself, or foreign players can bid also?
No, foreign players cannot bid for that. It's only domestic.
Got it. Thanks for taking my question, and best of luck for the future.
Thanks.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Sagar Gandhi from Future Generali. Please go ahead.
Sir, I have 2 questions. First is, we have added 3 new MNC customers, Andritz, Kongsberg, and Tata Advanced Systems. So, sir, which segments are you going to address for these customers?
See, Andritz is for the clean energy, for the hydrogen sector. and Kongsberg is on the more on the shipping industry, and we're looking at Tata MNC Tata Advanced Systems is on the aerospace sector.
So incrementally, sir, over the next 2 to 3 years, what level of contribution in our top line can these companies, contribute to our overall pie?
We can't really say that right now, but see, it's not about these 3 customers. We have a lot more customers who have approached us where they are in talks. So these are like, we do the FAs, the first articles we do, and then we go into batch production and volume production. So we're expecting, our focus is on diversifying into a lot more customers, but we are doing it in staged manner. So we can't really predict how much of these volumes are going to come in from all these other customers. It all depends on how we move forward with them. Good news is that we have our certifications in place, which we have mentioned earlier, which are prerequisite for some of the big MNC customers. We have them in place right now. So let's see how it goes, and we are pretty confident of adding a lot more customers and building volumes with them. So it's a stepwise process. That's what I could say right now.
Sir, my second question is, you said you have introduced 3 new indigenous products. First is electromechanical actuators, market size of which is roughly 400 crores. Can you give us the same number for roller screws, and what are your thoughts on electrolyzers? How large it can become for the company over the next 2 years?
See, basically, if you look at the product size, roller screws, right now I think there is 80 to 100 crores are being imported every year. Or it can grow even higher based on year-on-year growth, what we're looking at within India. So that, as of today, the good news is that we have manufactured them. We're just waiting for this COVID to die down, and we're going to exhibit it to the defense and space organizations, mostly in the month of July. And once that is done, we are through with it. So that will give us a huge impetus to take it forward. So by looking at the approvals qualification process, by end of Q2, we are through with roller screws. And that's what the number we're looking at over a period of time going from there. And Government of India has also strictly said that we need to indigenize everything, even if it costs more for these organizations to buy from India to start with. And then electromechanical actuators, it's something which we are working on right now, and we should be able to get through with this by beginning of Q4. And that's a major step that we have taken. We have already started working on it. It's also another import substitute. So these are the 2 areas which will give a lot of impetus for the company. And electrolyzers, as I said, it's on the clean energy segment. We have done the prototypes. They are under testing right now. But as I said, it will come after the hydrogen units. We are focusing on hydrogen units. We are in advanced stage there. And electrolyzers will kick in first quarter of FY23. So that's the timelines what we have for these products.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The next question is from the line of Nitin Arora from Axis Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Hi, my questions have been answered. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Nitin Agarwal from Elite Wealth Limited. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, this is Nitin Agarwal from Elite Wealth Limited. Congratulations for your best quarter that I have seen. Can you please some light on the space and defense revenue? Because right now what I can see is it's only contribute 21% of your revenue. So can you throw some light whether would it be some change of composition in the FY22 or FY23?
Can you repeat it? I'm not able to hear you well. Can you repeat the question?
Sorry. Yes. Yes, I'm saying right now 21% of your revenue comes from the space and defense sector. So can you throw some light on this composition, whether that would can we expect some change in the FY22 and FY23, more than 21% in the space and defense?
Yeah. So, obviously, as I said earlier also, we are going to improve our wallet share in space because we are going to introduce the semi-cryo engine for the first time in the country by Q3 of this year. So we have worked on such products like for the last 4-5 years. One is the semi-cryo engine. The second is the modules that we worked on, which goes for all these launches. So these new products that we are releasing this year would definitely increase our wallet share in the space business. And what numbers you see there are only value add. So raw material is a piece of material for space and most of the different products. So that's what you see there. So we definitely will see the growth happening in these areas because, and also remember we are, as clearly said, we are starting new facilities, new capabilities in sheet metal and specialized fabrication, where in the sheet metal we are looking at motor casings, light alloy structures to be supplied for the space department. So we have clear plans to improve wallet share in this business, and moving forward it will happen.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Due to time constraints, that was the last question. I would now like to hand the conference over to Mr. Srinivas for closing comments.
Thank you. So I would like to thank all of you for sparing your time, and I'm very happy to answer all your questions anytime. I would like to say one thing that I would request all of you to be very safe during this pandemic. But I would also like to say that moving forward, also we are committed to take this company forward in the right direction with the right kind of growth, and also try to improve on the way we can improve our numbers better and better, quarter on quarter, year on year basis. More than the numbers, what I would like to say all of you is that we are working on some exceptional engineering products which will help this nation and also help our portfolio of business that we are working with, and we'll continue to do that with number of engineers and senior management team that we have who work very passionately for the company. Thank you so much for all that.
Thank you. On behalf of MTAR Technologies Limited, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect your line.